Next up, criminals who hide out in your purse and rob you when you get home. That's where we're headed. And then they give you the warning signs. Purse feels extra heavy. Strange noises coming from purse. Now, here's why the tragic comedy of our local news is relevant to our topic today. If we're considering the fear of violence, we have to also consider the delivery system for that fear. About the building we're sitting in now, there have been news reports and some minor controversy about whether it is resistant enough to bombs. Is that good information? Is that a good issue for the public agenda? Which place is next to be bombed and which place is the least protected and the most vulnerable? It seems unwise to me. But in every major city in America, including Washington, D.C., there's 40 hours every day of local news production, 40 hours a day of original production material designed to scare us because that's what works. You can't turn the channel when it says, next up, dust that can kill your children. Well, I guess I got to watch that one and learn about that. And all this leads to some pretty absurd risk aversion. I saw a news report, local news. Next up, a new study reveals dangers in the space program. You mean it's dangerous to sit on top of a 10-story bomb and be blasted at 25,000 miles an hour out of the atmosphere? Well, that's some expose they're doing there, isn't it? And you could say a similar thing about the Foreign Service, where the challenges to buildings overseas are so different than they are to America, mostly because, as Ambassador Carpenter said, mostly because of the lack of response. Those buildings have to be protectable over the long term. They could be sitting there for 45 minutes with nobody helping, or 45 days with nobody helping. And that's a different world than we have here in America. And I've directed most of my comments toward America. And here, in America, I have some valuable advice for anyone who is suffering from fear about bombs in our federal buildings or other fears about unusual events. And it is to take that same energy that scares you and energizes you so much and press lightly on the remote control button and turn off the sensational, uninspirational, uneducational, privacy meddling, death peddling, celebrity snooping, helicopter swooping, flesh eating, rumor repeating, minicam toting, and fear promoting TV news. Turn it off. Okay. If you turn off the local TV news, then we can face the important question, which is not how we might die. That is not the important question on the agenda for us. It is how shall we live? And that's up to us. And for each unlikely risk that we overreact to, we take on another risk, which is the risk of being governed by fear. An unwarranted fear is a dictator, a cruel dictator that every day is forcing us in America to give up a little bit more of what we fought the British to get, which is some self-determination. And maybe, if more leaders will stand unafraid, as Moynihan has, and as Bob Peck has, then maybe America will listen when its architects ask, what do you want these buildings to say about our nation, about our time, about us? And I think we want these buildings to say that we are living unafraid. I think we want these buildings to say, or at least to whisper, in God we trust. And I think we want them to say we're living our lives with balance, not ignoring risk, but not building shrines to it either. Senator Moynihan is really just what we needed. I mean, there's a reason that this guy looks the part and acts the part and sounds the part. It's because he's the real deal. He's the real article. And I think everybody here is grateful for his participation in this national discussion. He has reminded us that we want the buildings standing, not ducking. Now, over the years, I have rarely been the one urging restraint of security. Part of my career has been quite the opposite. It's urging enhanced security. And I believe there is a level which we should not go below. I happen not to believe in barricades around every federal building. I think there are some buildings where it's appropriate, and it's a very odd equation government has to make. I think we need to protect those facilities whose loss would be critical, not just those facilities which are at risk. Imagine you have your house. It's absolutely critical that you protect your children because the loss would be so severe. Your dog may be at much greater risk running around the neighborhood, or your cat, but you would never put the same resources there. But here we're talking about human beings, and we want to say they're all equal. They are not. The White House is a unique target, unquestionably, demonstrated over and over again. It is a more dangerous job to live in that White House than it is to be a taxi cab driver in New York City, or to be a tree trimmer, or 100 other things. And that is the repository of our investment of faith. We made a decision. Is the killing of Robert Kennedy any different than the killing of the other 70 people who died in Los Angeles that week? Yes, it is. Inherently so. Because it's killing something about our system. It's not the individual. It's not the flesh. I think when we begin to make the decisions on the basis of value and not risk, we may find this challenge easier. Now, I repeat, I'm rarely the one arguing for restraint. And I have in fact argued with many of the architects in this room. And I'm not about to tell you that you were always right, because you were not always right. And I'm not about to say that I was always wrong, because I was never wrong. But I will say to everyone here who's given attention to these topics that I am really proud to be part of what you do and what you are doing. And I'm assuming that Senator Moynihan will see us next week for our regular session. And I thank you very much for your time. Thanks.